Hello and welcome, dear listener, to the Sleepy Physicist. I'm so glad you've wandered here tonight. It's a pleasure to have you join me tonight on the Sleepy Physicist. Whether you're nestled beneath the covers, stretching softly on the couch, or simply letting your mind sway gently in the twilight between waking and sleep, this quiet space is just for you. This tranquil space is a sanctuary for you, no matter if you're cozy in bed, relaxing on the sofa, or simply drifting peacefully between being awake and asleep. Tonight, we'll explore something you carry with you always, something so close it often goes unnoticed. This evening, we'll delve into a part of you that's always present yet so familiar it's easily overlooked. We're not looking at distant galaxies or ancient fossils. Not yet. We're beginning somewhere even more mysterious. Inside your own thoughts, the quiet flickers behind your eyes, the hum beneath your language, the quiet pulse of thought. We won't be traveling to far-off galaxies or digging up old fossils just yet. Instead, we'll start with a place even more enigmatic: the silent sparks of your own thoughts, the subtle rhythm that exists beneath your words, and the gentle beat of your mind. Now, I should gently mention this video is meant to help you unwind. But sometimes science has a funny way of waking the mind even as the body drifts into rest. If this keeps you awake for a little while, may it at least leave you curious, soothed, and a touch wiser. Just a quick note: this video is designed to help you relax. However, sometimes scientific ideas can stimulate the mind even as the body prepares for sleep. If you find yourself awake for a bit longer, I hope you'll at least feel more curious, calm, and enlightened. If you're enjoying this already, I'd be truly grateful if you gave the video a soft little like, or even subscribe for more meditative stories like this. It helps more wandering minds find their way here. If this resonates with you, I'd be very thankful for a gentle like or a subscription, which helps more people discover these calming story-like explorations. And if you'd like to support the channel more deeply, you can now join as a member or offer a super thanks. Both go a long way in helping me keep the cozy science flowing. For those who want to offer more support, you can now become a channel member or use the super thanks feature. Your contributions are a big help in keeping this stream of comforting science going. And of course, if you would like to share, I'd love to hear where you're listening from. Your city, your night sky, your quiet corner of the world. Feel free to share where you're tuning in from, your city, the sky above you, or your own peaceful spot in the world. Now then, let's begin. Close your eyes if they are not closed already. It's time to begin. If you haven't already, please close your eyes. Let your breath drift out like a wave and feel the gentle weight of your head. Exhale slowly as if your breath were a wave, and feel the soft heaviness of your head. Beneath that stillness inside the soft folds of your brain, something is stirring. It's not noise, not quite. It's more like a shimmer, a quiet rhythm just beneath awareness. This is the hum of thought. Deep within your still mind, something is beginning to stir. It's not a sound but more like a gentle flicker, a silent rhythm beneath your conscious thought. This is the subtle hum of your mind, not the loud kind, not the chatter of planning or playing or rehearsing. This is deeper, slower, older. I'm not talking about the noisy thoughts of daily planning or internal monologues. This is a deeper, more ancient rhythm. Imagine, if you like, a forest just before dawn. The trees are silent, but somewhere in the canopy, a first bird stirs. A leaf shifts, a pulse of life ripples through the stillness. That's what's happening now inside you. Picture a forest just before sunrise. The trees are still, but a single bird begins to stir, a leaf rustles. A quiet wave of life begins to move. This is the same stirring happening within you right now. Your neurons, those branching, whispering cells, begin to send tiny pulses across the vast forest of your brain. Each thought you've ever had, every memory, every feeling, every word rides along those branches, flashing between trees like a firefly crossing the dark. Your neurons, those intricate, branching cells, are sending out tiny signals through the vast network of your brain. Every thought, memory, emotion, and word you've ever had travels along these paths, like a firefly flickering through a dark forest. But here's the wonder. Before that spark ever becomes something you know, it starts as something quieter, a probability, a pattern, a wave. What's truly amazing is that before that spark becomes a conscious thought, it exists as a quieter, more fundamental form of probability, a pattern, or a wave. Scientists once believed thoughts were simple. One neuron fires, another catches it, like passing a note. But the deeper we've looked, the stranger the story has become. Scientists used to think thoughts were straightforward, with one neuron simply activating the next. But as we've learned more, the process has become far more complex and mysterious. Thought does not just live in the connections. It lives in the timing, the rhythm, the pause before the spark, the breath before the word. Thought isn't just about the connections between neurons, it's also found in the timing, the rhythm, the moment of hesitation before a signal is sent, the space between words. Inside each of your neurons, there are trillions of particles dancing, moving, shifting. And here in this quiet dance, quantum physics begins to whisper. Within each of your neurons, countless particles are constantly in motion. It's in this subtle, quiet activity that the principles of quantum physics may come into play. Because the particles inside your mind don't always behave the way we expect. They flicker in and out of certainty. They wait to be measured, to be noticed. They exist in states of maybe until something perhaps you makes them real. These particles don't always follow predictable rules. They exist in a state of uncertainty, in a maybe state, until they are observed perhaps by you, which makes them tangible. This is the quiet pulse of thought, a place where biology meets mystery, where a flicker of electricity becomes a feeling, where a cluster of cells becomes a sense of you, and yet no one fully understands how. Not yet. This is the quiet rhythm of your mind where biology and mystery converge. It's where an electrical signal becomes an emotion, where a group of cells creates your sense of self, and yet the exact process remains a mystery. You might picture your mind as a city glowing at night, each neuron a window lit from within. But there's something softer too. The air between the buildings, the pathways that aren't wires, but waves. Something flickers through that space too. Imagine your mind as a city at night with each neuron being a lit window. But there's also a softer presence, the space between the buildings where pathways are not solid wires but gentle waves. Something is also flickering through that space. Some scientists wonder whether quantum effects, those strange behaviors seen in particles, might also shape the patterns of your awareness. Some researchers speculate that the unusual behaviors of particles, known as quantum effects, might also influence the patterns of your consciousness. And here's where it gets dreamlike. In quantum mechanics, particles can exist in many states at once until they're observed. This is called superposition. Here is a more ethereal idea in quantum mechanics. Particles can be in multiple states simultaneously until someone observes them. This phenomenon is called superposition. When you're on the edge of a decision torn between two paths, you feel it. Both possibilities are alive inside you. And then with one tiny breath of choice, the wave collapses and you are suddenly walking one path. When you're facing a tough decision between two options, you feel both possibilities are real. Then, with a single moment of choice, one path becomes your reality. Could your mind work the same way, holding many possibilities at once until you gently look at one? Could your very attention be the observer that makes one path real? What if your mind works similarly, holding multiple possibilities until your focus turns to one? Could your attention be the very act of observation that makes one of those possibilities real? We don't yet know, but even the question softens the world, doesn't it? You are not a machine ticking with gears. You're a sea of signals, probabilities, and patterns. While we don't have the answer, just considering the question makes the world feel a bit more gentle, doesn't it? You're not a mechanical device, you're an ocean of signals, probabilities, and patterns. Thoughts do not always come in straight lines. They loop, repeat, hesitate. They arrive before you notice them. Sometimes you only understand what you're thinking after the thought has passed. And that's part of the magic. Thoughts aren't always linear. They can be cyclical, repetitive, or hesitant. They often appear before you're even aware of them. Sometimes you only grasp a thought after it's gone, which is part of its magic. Even now, as you listen, your brain is doing something extraordinary. It's not just hearing words. It's translating them into feelings, images, memories. As you listen right now, your brain is performing an incredible feat. It's not just processing words, it's transforming them into emotions, pictures, and memories. It's using pulses of chemistry and electricity, and maybe something deeper to conjure meaning out of air to create a quiet world behind your eyes. And just like that, thought becomes experience. It uses chemical and electrical signals, and perhaps something more, to create meaning out of nothing, forming a private world within your mind. In this way, thought becomes a lived experience. Where does a thought begin? Is it in the cells, the molecules, the quantum fluctuations beneath? Or is it in the space between that hush before the word, the silence between the notes? What is the true origin of a thought? Is it in the cells and molecules, in the quantum activity beneath them, or in the silent space that exists before a word is spoken or a note is played? You may never find a perfect answer, but that's the beauty of it. Thought is not a destination. It's a pulse, a rhythm, a quiet shimmer that lives inside you and through you. You might never find a definitive answer, and that's the beautiful part. Thought isn't a fixed point but a continuous pulse, a rhythm, a gentle shimmer that is a part of you. So tonight you don't need to solve anything. You don't need to understand everything. You can simply rest inside the wonder. So tonight, there's no need to figure everything out or solve any mysteries. Just allow yourself to rest in this sense of wonder. And as your body softens, your mind begins to drift, not away, but inward toward the next layer of mystery, toward the stars hidden in your head. As your body relaxes, your mind will start to drift, not away from you, but inward, toward the next layer of mystery, the hidden stars within your head. There's something waiting in the forest of your brain. A flicker just beyond sight. It glows and connects not just within you but beyond. And that's where we'll wander next, into the world of entanglement. There's a subtle flicker in the forest of your brain, something just out of view. It shines and connects not only within you but also beyond. This is where we'll go next, into the world of entanglement. The forest in your mind is wide and glowing. In this moment of stillness, with the outer world dimming, your attention folds inward like a fern at night. The vast, luminous forest of your mind is expansive. As the world outside grows dim, your focus turns inward, like a fern closing for the night. You begin to sense something behind your forehead, beneath the surface of your thoughts. Not noise, not images, but a quiet flickering. It's as if tiny stars are lighting up inside you. Behind your forehead, below the surface of your thoughts, you might start to feel a silent flickering. Not a sound or an image, but a sensation of tiny stars lighting up within you. Your brain, this soft, wet miracle, holds nearly 100 billion neurons. If you imagine each one as a star, you'll be holding a galaxy behind your eyes. Your brain, this soft, incredible organ, contains almost 100 billion neurons. If you picture each one as a star, you'd be holding an entire galaxy behind your eyes. And just like stars, neurons don't shine alone. They flare. They pulse. They form constellations of meaning. Like stars, neurons don't exist in isolation. They flare and pulse together, creating meaningful patterns like constellations. Each neuron stretches its delicate branches outward, like the limbs of an ancient tree. And where those branches almost touch with the tiniest space between them is a synapse, the meeting place, the whispering place. Each neuron extends its fine branches, similar to the limbs of an ancient tree. Where these branches nearly meet, a tiny gap known as a synapse exists, a place for them to connect and communicate. A signal begins as something small, a movement of ions, a subtle shift in the charge along a cell's surface. But when it travels, when it leaps across the synapse, it becomes part of something larger. A cascade, a memory, a word that arises unspoken, a feeling that begins before you know it's there. A signal starts as a small movement of ions, a slight change in a cell's electrical charge. But as it crosses the synapse, it joins a larger network, becoming a memory, an unsaid word, or a feeling that forms before you're aware of it. This is your brain's quiet lightning. But there's more than electricity here, more than signals zipping down wires. This is your brain's silent lightning. Yet, it's more than just electricity or signals racing along wires. Each of those leaps across the synaptic gap is a choice, a maybe, a chance that something might happen or might not. The brain doesn't fire like a machine. It listens, it waits. It hovers in potential. Every leap across that synaptic gap is a moment of choice, a possibility. The brain doesn't act like a machine, it listens, it waits, and it exists in a state of potential. You could think of the synapse as a bridge, but it's not a rigid one. It's more like a small river, and the signal must find its way across through chemical messages, through the probability of response. While you can think of the synapse as a bridge, it's not a solid one. It's more like a small river where signals cross using chemical messengers, with the outcome depending on the probability of a response. And here again, we find the soft edge of quantum mystery. Because inside those neurotransmitters, the tiny molecules that carry your thoughts across synapses, live atoms and particles that follow quantum rules. They tunnel, they superpose, they entangle. They do not always behave as expected. This is where the gentle mystery of quantum mechanics reappears. The neurotransmitters that carry your thoughts across synapses contain atoms and particles that follow quantum rules. They can tunnel, exist in multiple states, and become entangled, behaving in ways we don't always expect. And so within your brain's most basic functions, there may live the seeds of something stranger. This means that even within your brain's simplest functions, something more unusual may be at play. Picture it like this. You're standing in a dense night forest. Around you, Trees rise like towers, their trunks branching upward into thick canopies. And every so often, a light pulses in one tree, and across the way another flickers back. You're watching communication without words, a language written in sparks. Imagine being in a dense, dark forest where tall trees reach into a thick canopy. Occasionally, a light pulses in one tree, and another responds across the way. This is like a silent conversation, a language made of sparks. Now imagine the trees shifting, their roots growing, connections rewiring themselves. This is not a static place. Your neural forest changes every moment. Now, picture the trees shifting, their roots expanding, and their connections constantly reforming. Your neural forest is not a static place. It changes continuously. When you learn something new, a new path forms. When you feel something deeply, a branch thickens. When you sleep, the forest prunes and heals itself. When you learn something new, a new pathway is created. When you have a deep emotional experience, a connection strengthens. When you sleep, your brain prunes and repairs itself. You're not just thinking that you're growing thought. Even the quiet act of listening like you're doing now sends waves through this inner forest. You're not just having thoughts, you are cultivating them. Even the simple act of listening right now sends waves through this internal forest. As the words sink in, signals travel through your auditory cortex, language centers, memory areas. The lights move, the forest breathes. As these words resonate with you, signals travel through your auditory cortex, language centers, and memory regions. The lights move, the forest is alive. But not everything lights up at once. In truth, only a small fraction of your neurons are active at any one time. Most lie waiting, silent stars ready to shine when needed. Not all neurons are active at the same time. In fact, most are inactive, like silent stars waiting to shine when they are needed. This quiet majority forms the scaffolding of your potential, the unseen architecture of who you are becoming. This majority of quiet neurons creates a foundation for your potential, the unseen architecture of who you are evolving into. And yet the activity that does spark is not random. It follows paths shaped by experience, by genetics, by attention. The shape of your thought is not a fixed track but a living pattern. It changes with each moment even now. The activity that does occur is not random. It follows pathways influenced by your experiences, your genetics, and your focus. The form of your thoughts isn't a fixed track, it's a dynamic pattern that changes with every moment. Neuroscientists call this plasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself. But that word feels too rigid for what's happening here. Neuroscientists use the term plasticity to describe the brain's capacity to change. However, that word seems too inflexible for this living process. This isn't plastic. It's more like water carving stone, like vines finding new places to grow, like galaxies swirling into new forms with every passing second. This process is not like plastic. It's more like water shaping stone, vines growing in new directions, or galaxies swirling into new forms. Inside this forest, there are places of convergence, clusters of neurons devoted to language, memory, emotion, motion. And in those clusters, whole constellations of experience live together, like fireflies gathering in a clearing. In this neural forest, specific clusters of neurons are dedicated to language, memory, emotion, and movement. Within these clusters, entire constellations of experiences coexist, like fireflies congregating in a clearing. You might wonder where exactly a single thought lives. Where is the thought of your mother's voice, of a certain color, of the word wonder? There is no single cell that holds them. You may ask where a single thought, like the sound of your mother's voice or a specific color, is located. It's not held in one cell. Instead, these thoughts are woven across networks, scattered starlight across the mind. Each moment, you are not just using your brain. You are your brain in motion. Instead, these thoughts are interconnected across a network, like starlight scattered across your mind. In every moment, you are not simply using your brain, you are your brain in action. You are the pattern made of lights and shadows, of echoes and firings. And yet, even with all this complexity, you feel whole, singular. You feel like you. You are a pattern of lights and shadows, of echoes and signals. Despite all this complexity, you feel complete and singular. You feel like you. That feeling of unity is the quiet miracle of the brain. For all its networks, all its circuits, you do not feel fragmented. Your awareness is continuous like a thread of moonlight winding through trees. That is not something science has fully explained. Not yet. This sense of wholeness is a silent miracle of the brain. Despite all its networks and circuits, you don't feel fragmented. Your consciousness is a continuous thread, like moonlight winding through trees, and science hasn't fully explained it yet. And so in the forest of your mind, you walk gently among the trees. You feel the warmth of your own thoughts. You sense the unseen branches stretching outward. As you navigate the forest of your mind, you feel the warmth of your thoughts and sense the unseen connections reaching out. And somewhere deeper still, something stirs, something more subtle than synapses, more ancient than the brain itself. A thread that doesn't quite belong to the biology alone. A thread that connects not just one neuron to another, but you to something beyond, and in an even deeper place. Something stirs, something more subtle than synapses and older than the brain itself. A thread that isn't purely biological, connecting not just one neuron to another, but connecting you to something greater. That's where we're headed next. Into the mysterious quiet of entanglement, where your mind and the world might just be speaking across invisible bridges. This is our next destination, the mysterious silence of entanglement, where your mind and the world may be communicating across unseen connections. There's a famous experiment in physics, small, simple, and quiet. Yet, it shook the foundations of everything we thought we knew. It's called the double slit experiment. And though it began with particles of light and metal plates, it has now traveled far beyond the lab, echoing in philosophy and consciousness, and perhaps even inside your own mind. There is a simple, famous experiment in physics, the double slit experiment, that fundamentally changed what we thought we knew about the universe. Though it started with light particles and metal plates, its implications have extended far beyond the lab, influencing philosophy, consciousness, and perhaps even the way your own mind works. Imagine a single particle, a speck of light, a photon, or perhaps something more tangible, an electron, one of the tiny pieces that make up your own body. You fire it at a barrier with two slits, just two narrow openings. You expect it to go through one slit or the other, right? After all, it's a thing, a dot, a small bead of matter. Picture a single particle, a photon, an electron, a tiny piece of your own body, being shot at a barrier with two narrow openings. You'd expect it to pass through one slit or the other, since it's a solid object. But something strange happens. If you don't look, if you don't measure which slit the particle goes through, it behaves like a wave. Not a solid object, but a ripper pole, a probability, a maybe. It goes through both slits at once, interfering with itself like water overlapping in a pond. However, something unusual occurs. If you don't observe which slit the particle passes through, it acts like a wave, a ripple of probability, not a solid object. It goes through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself like overlapping waves in water. And on the screen behind the slits, you don't get two dots. You get a pattern, bands of light and dark, interference, a fingerprint of uncertainty. But the moment you decide to observe it, to ask which slit it really goes through, everything changes. The particle picks a side, the interference vanishes. It becomes a thing again, a dot, a decision. The act of observation changes the outcome. The screen behind the slits doesn't show two dots but a pattern of light and dark bands, a signature of this interference and uncertainty. Yet, the moment you decide to observe which slit it passes through, the particle behaves like a solid object again, choosing one slit, and the wave pattern disappears. The act of observation fundamentally changes the result. And here, gently a question arises. What else changes when it is observed? What happens when you observe yourself? This raises a profound question: what else changes when it's observed? What happens when you turn your attention inward and observe yourself? Just like the particle, your mind contains layers. There are thoughts that drift like mist, free-floating, unresolved. There are decisions you haven't made yet, feelings you haven't quite named. A superposition of possibilities all alive at once. Like the particle, your mind has many layers. Some thoughts drift like mist, unfixed and unresolved. You have unmade decisions and unnamed feelings. All these possibilities exist in a state of superposition, alive at once. But the moment you look closely, the moment you focus, name, define, something collapses. You form a conclusion, a self, a path. And yet, a part of you still lingers in the not yet decided. This is the double slit in your mind. You're not just the observer. You're also the pattern. But the moment you focus on, name, or define something, that state of superposition collapses. You form a conclusion, a sense of self, a chosen path. Yet, a part of you remains in the not yet decided state. This is the double slit of your mind. You are not only the observer, but also the pattern itself. Close your eyes for a moment and think of a memory. Not a fixed one, not a photograph in your mind, but a hazy moment, a feeling. As you focus on it, notice how it changes. Maybe the edges sharpen. Maybe a detail emerges, maybe something fades. Close your eyes and recall a memory, not a clear image, but a hazy feeling. As you focus on it, notice how it changes. Maybe it becomes sharper, a new detail appears, or something fades away. The act of remembering is not passive, it's creative. It reshapes the memory as it draws it forth. In the brain, this is called reconsolidation. Every time you remember something, you change it. Not because you're trying to, but because the act of observation alters the shape, just like the photon at the slit. Remembering is an active, creative process that reshapes a memory each time you recall it. This is called reconsolidation. Each time you remember something, you change it. You don't do this intentionally. It happens because the act of observation alters the memory's form, just as it does with the photon. You are a field of possibility until the moment you look. And it isn't just memory. Even your sense of self, your you-ness, shifts depending on where your attention rests. You are a realm of possibilities until you focus on one. This isn't limited to memory. Your very sense of self changes depending on what you pay attention to. In the morning, you may feel calm, later distracted, then creative. Each version of you is real, yet none fully defines you until perhaps you pause and ask, "Who am I right now?" And with that question, something collapses into form. In the morning, you might feel calm, then later distracted, and then creative. All these versions are real, but none of them define your complete self until you stop to ask, "Who am I right now?" A question that makes one of these versions solid. But maybe, just maybe, there's wisdom in not collapsing too soon. Maybe part of peace is learning to sit with superposition, to allow yourself to be unsure, shifting, layered, to be both curious and afraid, hopeful and tired, joyful and uncertain. Perhaps there is wisdom in not rushing to define yourself. Part of finding peace might be to sit with this superposition of possibilities, allowing yourself to be uncertain, layered, and shifting, to be both curious and scared, hopeful and tired, happy and unsure. Like the wave, you are allowed to move in more than one way. The physicist Niels Bohr once said, "The opposite of a profound truth may well be another profound truth." And this too is the logic of waves of thought, of the quiet contradictions you carry. Just like a wave, you are free to move in multiple ways. The physicist Niels Bohr once noted that the opposite of a profound truth could also be a profound truth. This principle also applies to waves, thoughts, and the quiet contradictions within you. Your thoughts, like particles, do not always follow neat paths. They scatter, overlap, echo back on themselves. And yet within that interference lies creativity. Your thoughts, like particles, don't always follow a direct path. They scatter, overlap, and echo. And this very interference is where creativity is born. You're not a simple object. You're a pattern, a poem written in flickers of potential. And just as a particle's behavior depends on how it's observed, so does yours. You are not a simple object, you are a pattern, a living poem made of potential. And just as a particle's behavior is influenced by being observed, so is yours. Think of how your posture changes when someone's watching, how your mood shifts when you're alone, how your dreams feel different when spoken aloud. The act of attention, whether from yourself or others, changes the shape of what is. Consider how your posture changes when you know someone is watching, or how your mood shifts when you're by yourself. The act of attention, whether from you or others, alters what is. You're not static, you're sensitive to gaze. But here's the gentlest truth: not all observation collapses the wave. Sometimes it expands it. You are not static, you are sensitive to being seen. But here is an even more gentle truth: not all observation causes the wave to collapse. Sometimes it makes it bigger. When you hold yourself in soft awareness without judgment, without needing to define, but you allow your mind to breathe, you stay in that in-between space, the space of may, of yet, of not quite. It's there in that shimmer that new ideas are born, new selves, new paths. When you observe yourself with a gentle awareness, without judgment or the need to define, you allow your mind to breathe. You remain in that in-between state of possibility, and it is in that shimmer that new ideas, new selves, and new paths are born. You're not broken because you don't always feel like one thing. You are quantum. You are complex. You're a superposition of all your possible tomorrows. You aren't flawed for not always feeling like a single, consistent thing. You are quantum and complex, a superposition of all your potential future selves. And if you ever feel stuck, trapped by an identity, a feeling, a thought, remember the slits. Remember the wave. Step back, soften your gaze, and let the pattern shift again, because the observer changes the outcome. But the observer too can change. If you ever feel trapped by an identity, a feeling, or a thought, remember the double slit in the wave. Step back, soften your focus, and allow the pattern to shift again. The observer changes the outcome, but the observer can also change. Somewhere in your mind, two slits remain open. One path or another, or perhaps both. And just beyond them, across the forest of your brain, a new flicker begins. not within you alone, but shared, entangled with something more. A thread connecting your thoughts to another? Somewhere in your mind, two possibilities are always open. And beyond those, across the forest of your brain, a new flicker begins. Not just within you, but connected, or entangled with something more. A thread linking your thoughts to another far from you. Imagine a thread, not a thick rope or something you can grasp, but a gossamer, a line, light as breath, nearly invisible. Now imagine another thread far away, moving ever so slightly. And as it shifts, your thread moves too. Picture a nearly invisible thread, as light as a breath. Now, imagine a similar thread far away that moves slightly, causing your thread to move in response. This is entanglement. In the quantum world, entanglement is a mystery wrapped in stillness. Two particles, no matter how far apart, can become connected. Measure one and the other responds instantly, even across great distances. Not with a signal, not with a delay. Instantly, as if space itself isn't really what we thought. This is entanglement. In the quantum world, two particles can become linked, no matter how far apart they are. If you measure one, the other responds instantly, as if distance doesn't exist. Some call it spooky, some call it beautiful, but no one fully understands how, and yet, don't you sometimes feel it? A tug in your chest when someone you love is hurting even from miles away. A thought of someone just before they call. A sense that something beyond your skin is somehow part of you. It's a phenomenon that some call spooky, and others beautiful, but no one fully understands it. Yet, you may have felt something similar, a pang in your chest, when a loved one is in pain from a distance, or thinking of someone just before they call you. You get the sense that something beyond your physical body is connected to you. Perhaps it's coincidence. Perhaps it's pattern seeking. But perhaps, just perhaps, your mind is more entangled than it appears. While this could be coincidence or simply your brain looking for patterns, it's possible that your mind is more entangled than it seems. You're not a closed system. You're porous. Thoughts pass through you, shaped by what you see, who you speak to, where you've been. Even your quietest feelings carry traces of others. You carry their laughter, their stories, their fears. You carry their quantum fingerprints, however faint. You are not a closed system, but a porous one. Thoughts move through you, influenced by what you see, who you talk to, and where you've been. Even your most private feelings hold the faint traces of others, their laughter, stories, and fears. Entanglement in the lab begins with contact. Two particles meet, and from then on, their states are linked. What affects one affects the other, no matter how far they roam. And perhaps your mind works this way too. In a lab, entanglement starts when two particles meet, and their states become linked forever. What affects one affects the other, regardless of distance. Perhaps your mind works in a similar way. Think back to a person who changed you. Maybe just a little, maybe entirely. A teacher, a parent, a stranger who said the right words at the right time. Their voice still echoes in you even now. Their way of seeing lingers in your own. That's entanglement, not only as physics, but as belonging. Think of a person who changed you, whether a little or a lot, a teacher, a parent, or a stranger who said the right thing at the right time. Their voice still echoes in you, and their perspective influences your own. This is entanglement, not just in a scientific sense, but in a sense of belonging. In your brain, entanglement may not be just metaphor. Some researchers believe quantum effects could play a role in cognition, that certain proteins in the brain might maintain coherence long enough to allow for entangled states. In your brain, entanglement might be more than a metaphor. Some scientists suggest that quantum effects could be involved in cognition, with certain proteins in the brain maintaining a coherent state long enough to allow for entanglement. It's not proven, it's not settled. But the idea itself is like a door slightly ajar, letting in the breeze of possibility. This idea is not yet proven or accepted, but the concept itself is like an open door, letting in a breeze of possibility. But even without quantum mechanics, your entanglement with the world is real. Your microbiome, the bacteria and microbes that live within you, respond to your environment, your relationships, your diet, your emotions. The state of your gut can affect your mood. Your mood affects your voice. Your voice affects the people you speak to. It's all connected. Even without quantum mechanics, you are undeniably entangled with the world. Your microbiome, the bacteria within you, responds to your environment, relationships, diet, and emotions. The condition of your gut can influence your mood affects your voice, and your voice affects the people you talk to. Everything is interconnected. Entanglement is not about distance, it's about relationship. Even light is entangled. In certain crystals, one photon can split into two. entangled twins flying off in opposite directions, and yet they remain linked, their polarizations dancing in symmetry. Entanglement is about relationships, not distance. Even light can be entangled. In some crystals, a single photon can split into two entangled twins that travel in opposite directions but remain linked, their polarizations moving in symmetry. You are a being of light in a way. Your body is full of photon in your eyes, your skin, even your brain. You absorb the sun. You reflect your surroundings. You are shaped by every wavelength that ever touched you. In a way, you are a being of light. Your body is full of photons. In your eyes, skin, and even your brain. You absorb the sun's light, reflect your surroundings, and are shaped by every wavelength that has ever touched you. And so, just like those photons, perhaps you are not alone in your motion. Perhaps there are moments, soft, rare, fleeting, when you are in resonance with another. A shared look, a sudden understanding, two minds turning in the same invisible rhythm. No signal exchange, just recognition. Therefore, like those photons, perhaps you are not moving alone. There may be rare, gentle moments when you are in sync with another person. A shared glance, a sudden understanding. Two minds moving in the same invisible rhythm. No signal is exchanged, just a mutual recognition. You know that feeling, don't you? It isn't loud. It isn't logical, but it's real. You've felt that, haven't you? It's not loud or logical, but it is real. The philosopher David Bowie once imagined the universe as a vast hidden wholeness, a sea of interconnected patterns beneath the surface of things. He believed that what we see is only the unfolded part, while the deeper truths lie in the implicate order, the entangled unseen web. The philosopher David Bowie once proposed that the universe is a hidden wholeness, an ocean of interconnected patterns beneath the surface of reality. He believed that what we see is just a small part of a deeper truth which lies in the implicate order, the unseen entangled web. And in your quietest moments you feel that web. You feel it when a piece of music moves you to tears, though no one else is in the room. You feel it when you step outside and sense the weather in your skin, your bones. You feel it when you reach for someone and they are already reaching back. In your quietest moments, you feel that web. You feel it when a song brings you to tears even when you're alone. When you step outside and feel the weather in your body, or when you reach for someone and they are already reaching for you. You're not a solitary spark floating in the void. You're part of the pattern, a flicker in the net, a note in the song. You are not a lone spark floating in emptiness. You are a part of a larger pattern, a flicker in a network, a note in a universal song. And even as your individual thoughts rise and fall, shaped by neurons, by fields, by memory, there's something more subtle beneath them. Connection. Even as your individual thoughts come and go, shaped by neurons, fields, and memories, there is something more subtle beneath them, connection. Sometimes that connection is joyful. Sometimes it's painful. But either way, it is shared. Even loneliness is a kind of proof. Proof that you were once connected and still long to be. This connection can be joyful or painful, but it is always shared. Loneliness is even a form of proof that you were once connected and still have a deep desire to be. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "I am circling around God, around the ancient tower, and I have been circling for thousands of years." You too are circling around mystery, around others, around yourself. And all the while, your thread tugs gently. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote about circling around an ancient tower and God for thousands of years. You, too, are circling around a mystery, around others and yourself, all while your personal thread gently tugs. Your brain, like a starry forest, lights up in patterns that mirror the world, not just reflecting it, but ascending to it. The more you learn, the more entangled you become. The more you care, the more threads are spun. Your brain, like a starry forest, lights up in patterns that reflect the world, not just mirroring it but becoming one with it. The more you learn, the more you become entangled. The more you care, the more connections you create. So tonight, as you settle into stillness, remember that you are not alone in this quiet. Even now you are connected through memory, through love, through physics you may never fully see. There is someone somewhere whose thought once touched yours. And even if you can't feel it, even if you never know, they may still carry a flicker of you ripplingly in the dark. As you find stillness tonight, remember that you are not alone in this quiet. You are connected through memory, love, and a physics you might not fully understand. There is someone whose thoughts have touched yours, and even if you don't feel it, they may still carry a flicker of you within them. As that idea settles into your breath, another one begins to rise. What if the self you feel, this you, is not one thing, but many? What if you're not a solid being, but a cloud of flickering possibilities all waiting to be seen. As you take a deep breath, another idea arises: what if your sense of self isn't a single entity but a collection of many? What if you're not a solid being but a cloud of flickering possibilities waiting to be seen? You wake up one morning and feel like a quiet version of yourself. Later, you're full of motion. Another day you feel reflective, withdrawn, a thinker, a watcher, a ghost in your own life. Each time it's still you, but not the same you. What if this isn't a flaw but a truth? You might wake up feeling quiet one morning, then active later, and then reflective and withdrawn another day. Each of these is still you, but a different version. What if this isn't a flaw but a fundamental truth about who you are? In quantum mechanics, there is a strange idea called superposition. It means a particle doesn't have one position or one state until it is measured. Until that moment, it exists in a blend of all its possible states at once, a soft cloud of May. It's not either or, it's both and. In quantum mechanics, a particle doesn't have a single position or state until it's measured. This concept, known as superposition, means it exists in a blend of all its possible states at once, a soft cloud of maybe. It's not one or the other, it's both. And perhaps so are you. You are the you who laughs, the you who doubts, the you who dreams of something far away. Each version of you waits in the midst of your own becoming. And no single version is more real than the others. Not yet, and perhaps you are the same. You are the person who laughs, doubts, and dreams of distant things. Each of these versions of you exists within your own becoming, and no single version is more real than another. Not yet. This is the superposition of the self. Not a disorder, not confusion, but potential. A resting place of identities all humming at once like musical notes that haven't yet resolved into a chord. You are not a single note. You are the whole chord waiting to be played. This is the superposition of the self, not a disorder or confusion, but pure potential. It's a place where multiple identities hum at once, like notes that haven't yet formed a chord. You are not a single note. You are the entire chord waiting to be played. There are moments when you feel this even if you don't name it, when you hesitate at a choice to speak or to stay silent, to turn left or right, to forgive or to close the door. In that pause, both paths are alive inside you. And for a flicker of time, you are both versions of yourself. You feel this even if you don't have a name for it. When you hesitate between speaking or staying silent, or choosing between two paths, both possibilities are alive within you. For a brief moment, you are both versions of yourself. Science often seeks precision. It asks, what are you? But the quieter question might be, what could you be? You're a quantum cloud of becoming, not only in thought but in body and story. Science often looks for precise answers, asking, what are you? But a more gentle question might be, what could you be? You are a quantum cloud of becoming, not just in your thoughts but also in your body and your story. Your cells are constantly renewing, your memories reshaping. You are changed by what you notice, what you love, what you lose. And even now you are shifting. Your cells are always regenerating, and your memories are constantly being reshaped. You are changed by what you notice, love, and lose. You are shifting even now. The idea of one fixed identity is comforting, like a name carved into stone. But stone does not grow. You do. The idea of a single fixed identity is comforting, like a name carved in stone. But stone does not grow, you do. Imagine standing in a room full of mirrors, not reflecting your outer body, but the inner moods, the possible selves. Some mirrors show confidence. Some show fear. Some reveal ideas you haven't yet dared to live. You stand among them and for a moment feel them all. Imagine a room of mirrors that reflect not your physical body, but your inner states and potential selves. Some mirrors show confidence, others fear, and some reveal ideas you haven't dared to explore. You stand among them feeling all of them at once. This isn't imagination, it's how your brain works. Neuroscience tells us that the mind doesn't operate with a single self-model, but a fluid system of networks that light up in different combinations. You're not a central control room. You're a constellation. This isn't just imagination, it's how your brain works. Neuroscience suggests that the mind isn't run by a single model of self, but by a fluid network that activates in different combinations. You are not a central control room. You are a constellation. Your selfhood emerges from patterns. Patterns that change with sleep, with mood, with memory, with touch. You are like a wave shaped by the shoreline of the moment. Your sense of self emerges from patterns that change with sleep, mood, memory, and touch. You are like a wave, constantly being shaped by the shoreline of the present moment. Even your memories, those things you trust to tell you who you are fluid. They blur at the edges. They rewrite themselves in quiet ways. Each time you remember, you blend the past with the present. The self you are becomes part of the self you are, but never exactly the same. Even your memories, which you rely on to define yourself, are fluid. They blur at the edges and subtly rewrite themselves. Each time you remember, you combine the past with the present, making the self you were a part of the self you are, but never exactly the same. And yet this shifting doesn't make you less real. It makes you vast. You're not inconsistent, you're layered. Superposition doesn't mean you're lost in uncertainty. It means you carry richness. This constant shifting doesn't make you less real. It makes you vast. You are not inconsistent. You are layered. Superposition doesn't mean you're lost in uncertainty. It means you are full of richness. It means you hold the strength to adapt, to change, to surprise yourself. And maybe you don't always have to choose. Sometimes the best thing to do is rest in the in-between. To feel the presence of many possible selves and breathe among them. To notice the one who longs to speak and the one who longs to be silent. To let them both exist without forcing one into being. It means you have the strength to adapt, change, and surprise yourself. Maybe you don't always have to choose one path. Sometimes the best thing is to rest in the in-between, to feel the presence of all your possible selves and breathe among them. To notice the part of you that wants to speak and the part that wants to be silent, letting both exist without forcing one to be real. You do not owe the world a final version of yourself. You're allowed to flicker. You don't owe anyone a final fixed version of yourself. You are allowed to flicker. And in this flicker, something beautiful happens. You begin to sense that identity is not a boundary. It is a rhythm, a weaving, a gentle oscillation between becoming and being. You're allowed to be new. And in this flickering state, something beautiful occurs. You realize that identity is not a boundary but a rhythm, a gentle weaving between becoming and being. You are allowed to be new. The moon does not apologize for having faces. The ocean does not explain every tide. And your mind does not need to be one shape or one story forever. The moon doesn't apologize for its phases, and the ocean doesn't need to explain every tide. Your mind also doesn't need to be one single shape or story forever. What science calls superposition, perhaps poets have always known that inside each of us live many threads, and the art of being human is not cutting away all but one, but learning how to carry them all gently. What science calls superposition, poets have always understood as the many threads that live within us. The art of being human isn't about choosing just one thread but learning to carry them all gently. So the next time you feel uncertain, the next time you don't know who you are, remember the particle in the double slit. Remember the cloud that hasn't yet collapsed. So, the next time you feel uncertain or unsure of yourself, remember the particle in the double slit. Remember the cloud of possibilities that hasn't collapsed yet. You're allowed to wait, to listen, to be many. And somewhere inside that waiting, a whisper begins to rise not from oneself, but from the quiet field beneath them all. It does not speak in words. It hums. You have permission to wait, to listen, and to be many things at once. And within that waiting, a whisper begins to rise. Not from a single self, but from the quiet field beneath them all. It doesn't use words, it hums. And just beyond that hum, something even more silent begins to stir. Not within you, but beneath you. The field from which all things arise, even thought, even self, even time. And that's where we'll drift next into the hidden quantum fields that shape not only your brain but your being. Beyond that hum, something even more silent begins to stir, not within you but beneath you. This is the field from which everything emerges, including thought, self, and time. This is where we will go next, into the hidden quantum fields that shape not only your brain but your very being. Beneath the loudness of life, beneath thoughts, language, even breath, there is a sense, not the absence of sound, but a presence that hums, a gentle undercurrent, a soft field. And in the heart of physics, there is something that sounds very much the same. It's called the quantum field. Beneath the noise of life, beneath your thoughts, language, and even your breath, there is a feeling. Not the absence of sound but a humming presence, a gentle current, a soft field. In physics, there is a similar concept called the quantum field. Most people imagine particles, tiny marbles moving through space, but in modern physics, particles are not the starting point. Fields are invisible, ever present, quietly vibrating across all of space and time. Most people think of particles as tiny marbles moving through space. However, in modern physics, fields are the starting point. They are invisible, always present, and quietly vibrating across all of space and time. Each particle you have ever heard of, electrons, photons, quarks, is simply a ripple in a deeper field. Like a wave on a pond, like a shimmer through tall grass, like a thought drifting through awareness. And perhaps that's not a coincidence. Every particle you know of, electrons, photons, quarks, is merely a ripple in a deeper field, like a wave on a pond or a shimmer through tall grass. This may be more than a coincidence. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a vast ocean, still boundless, featureless. Then just the tiniest ripple disturbs it, a gentle pulse. That ripple is a particle. But the ocean, that's the field ever there, even when nothing seems to move. Close your eyes and imagine a vast, still ocean. The smallest ripple on that ocean is a particle, but the ocean itself is the field, always there, even when nothing is moving. This is what the universe is made of. Not objects, but subtle invisible motion. There is a field for every fundamental force, a field for every type of particle. Some fill the entire universe, unchanged since the birth of time. Others flicker into existence and disappear just as quickly. And all of them are alive in their own silent way. This is the fundamental composition of the universe, not objects, but subtle, invisible motion. There is a field for every fundamental force and every type of particle. Some have been constant since the beginning of time, while others flicker in and out of existence. All of them are silently alive. Now imagine your mind, your inner space. It too seems to ripple, doesn't it? Not always with clear thoughts or sharp images, but with movement, a wordless sense, a shape of feeling adrift. Now think about your mind. It also seems to ripple, doesn't it? Not always with clear thoughts, but with a wordless sensation, a shape of a feeling, a gentle drift. What if your mind is not simply the activity of neurons, but a kind of field in its own right? Not made of flesh and spark alone, but something deeper, a subtle oscillation beneath thought. What if your mind isn't just the activity of neurons but its own kind of field, not just made of flesh and electrical signals but of something deeper, a subtle oscillation beneath your thoughts? Neuroscientists speak of brain waves, oscillations that pulse through your cortex, alpha, beta, theta rhythms that correspond to attention, rest, sleep, dream. But even these may only be surface waves riding on deep emotion still. Neuroscientists talk about brain waves, rhythms like alpha, beta, and theta that are associated with attention, rest, and sleep. But even these might just be surface waves on a much deeper, stiller ocean. Could there be a quantum field of mind? Some thinkers, both physicists and philosophers, have wondered not that mind is separate from matter, but that mind is a pattern within matter's field. That consciousness may be a Bosal kind of resonance, a way that the universe sings when complexity reaches just the right harmony. Could there be a quantum field of mind? Some thinkers, both physicists and philosophers, have speculated that the mind isn't separate from matter, but is a pattern within the field of matter. They suggest that consciousness might be a type of resonance, the universe singing when complexity reaches a specific harmony. You don't need to believe it to feel it. When you are deep in meditation or in a dream or simply watching clouds without words, you begin to feel it. The presence beneath presence, the stillness beneath stillness, the sense that something is humming even in silence. You don't have to believe this to feel it. When you're in deep meditation, dreaming, or simply watching clouds, you start to feel it. The presence beneath all other presence, the stillness beneath all stillness, the sense of a quiet hum even in total silence. And in the physics lab, this hum is real. Even in a perfect vacuum where no particles exist, the quantum field does not lie still. It flickers with vacuum fluctuations, tiny spontaneous ripples of energy that appear and vanish. Particles blink into existence, then fade. The field breathes. This is called the quantum vacuum. But it is not empty. It is the most pregnant emptiness imaginable. In a physics lab, this hum is a real phenomenon. Even in a perfect vacuum, the quantum field isn't still. It flickers with vacuum fluctuations. Tiny, spontaneous ripples of energy that appear and disappear. Particles blink into existence and then vanish. The field breathes. This is the quantum vacuum, which is not empty but is the most fertile emptiness imaginable. Could your quietest moment, your most spacious states of mind, and be moments when your awareness touches something like this? When you're not caught in thoughts, not pulling at memories, not reaching for plans, but just being, there may be a resonance, a matching rhythm between your inner field and the one that fills all space. Could your quietest, most expansive moments be times when your awareness connects with something like this? When you're not focused on thoughts, memories, or plans but are simply being, there might be a resonance, a rhythm that matches the inner field of your mind with the field that fills all space. And perhaps this is where insight lies, not in logic or reason, but in tuning, when your mind stops reaching and begins to resonate, when you stop grasping at the world and let the world ripple through you. Perhaps this is where true insight comes from, not from logic, but from a tuning in. It happens when your mind stops reaching for things and starts to resonate. When you stop grasping at the world and allow the world to ripple through you. Some physicists believe the quantum field is the true substance of reality. That matter, time, and even space are emergent patterns within it. That nothing is solid really. Everything is a wave shaped by interaction. And perhaps your identity is the same. Not a core, not a thing, but a ripple, a field disturbance, a brief, beautiful interference. Some physicists believe that the quantum field is the true nature of reality and that matter, time and space are just patterns within it. Nothing is truly solid. Everything is a wave shaped by interaction. Perhaps your identity is the same. Not a core object, but a beautiful, brief ripple, a disturbance in the field. You are not just in the universe. You are of it. And when you sit quietly, when your mind softens, you can feel that truth humming behind your chest. Not as a thought, but as a tone. You are not merely a part of the universe. You are made of it. When you sit quietly and your mind softens, you can feel that truth humming within you, not as a thought, but as a tone. You do not need to do anything with it. Just notice. Just rest. Even now, in this moment, there is a field inside you. Not metaphor but motion, not static but always becoming. You don't need to do anything with this feeling. Just notice it. Just rest in it. Even now, in this moment, there is a field within you, not a metaphor, but a motion that is always becoming, never static. And just as one ripple can cross another and form something new, your thoughts interfere with one another, shaping patterns, feelings, meaning. Nothing arises alone. And just as two ripples can cross to form a new pattern, your thoughts interfere with one another, creating new patterns, feelings, and meanings. Nothing arises alone. Even the smallest thought carries echoes of the field. The stories you've heard, the people you've loved, the places you've been, everything touches everything else. The smallest thought carries echoes of the field. The stories you've heard, the people you've loved, the places you've been. Everything touches everything else. And beneath all that motion, beneath every idea and every wave, there is the quiet. The field does not need to speak to be real. It only needs to be felt. And you and your stillness are the perfect instrument. And beneath all that motion, every idea and every wave, there is a deep quiet. The field doesn't need to speak to be real. It only needs to be felt. In your stillness, you are the perfect instrument to feel it. So rest there for a while in the ocean beneath form, in the field beneath words. And as you float, something delicate begins to rise. Not a ripple this time, but warmth, a quiet fire in the brain, a steady glow of possibility. So, rest for a moment in the ocean beneath form, in the field beneath words. As you float there, something delicate begins to rise. This time, it's not a ripple, but a warmth, a quiet fire in the brain, a steady glow of possibility. Your body is not just waves. It is warmth, a living flame, and that flame holds secrets too. In the next stillness, we'll drift into the brain's secret temperature and discover how heat, time, and thought are braided together. Your body isn't just waves, it is warmth, a living flame that holds its own secrets. In our next session, we'll explore the brain's hidden temperature and discover how heat, time, and thought are all intertwined. If you could hold your brain in your hands gently, reverently, you'd notice something surprising. It is warm. Not just alive, not just busy, but glowing softly with heat. This warmth isn't noise. It isn't a byproduct. It is part of the intelligence itself. Your brain, even in deep sleep, burns with the energy of a low wattage. If you could gently hold your brain, you would be surprised by its warmth. It's not just alive or active, it glows with a gentle heat. This warmth isn't a side effect, it's a part of its intelligence. Even while you're in a deep sleep, your brain is burning with the energy of a low wattage light bulb.